Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to do a bit of a blast from the past here and go back and look at one of our earliest big projects that we've done on CK Productions. We're going to look back at the Zelda movie that we did about, 6 years ago, called Millennium. And again, this month is Zelda month, so this month I'm going to be posting all Zelda-themed behind-the-scenes videos. And not sure if a lot of you guys have watched Millennium, but if you're kind of an OG fan of the channel CK Productions, you would know about Millennium, and it's a series that we did where it really was filmed basically like a feature-length movie. And we released it as a series over the summer, and then eventually we ended up releasing the entire movie itself as a YouTube video itself, which actually, funny enough, got more views than when we released it as the series over the summer. Go figure. Today, what I wanted to do is I wanted to break down, and like we've been doing for the past videos, I want to break down some of the visual effects that we did in this movie, and I want to talk about some of the production aspects of the film as well, do kind of behind the scenes look at things, and kind of just talk about some things that went well, some things that didn't quite go as well. This is one of our earlier projects, so there's a lot of challenges that were involved in this project, and a lot of things what we can learn from, so I think it's going to be good to look back and talk about some of that stuff. So let's jump right into it here.
There was once a distant land where many...
Ooh, okay, that audio is really bad. I'm not gonna lie.
Many tales were woven about good and evil. Many times over, forces of evil attempted to conquer it. Each time, one hero was able to defeat it and save his land. This feat was accomplished with the help of one legendary sword, which was said to be the bane of all evil. In frustration, the powers of evil struck with a force unimaginable to any land past, present, or future.
Okay, so I'm going to stop right here. So basically, you kind of get the gist of the intro here. This is sort of an intro that brings us into the world. It's kind of a pretty cool concept that we decided to do for the intro here. Doing sort of these silhouette pieces here and putting them onto this kind of atmospheric fractal background with the light rays coming through, and this is done with a variety of different effects. This honestly probably is one of my most favorite parts of this entire movie. It kind of shows you how I think about it. This is done with a lot of fractal noise, a lot of fog types of layer particulars flying with the particles here, and all kind of encompassing this idea of light rays. Atmospheric light rays is a type of effect that is done with a variety of different things. It's kind of originated from Video Copilot, like a lot of the effects from this do. It creates a light source in the center and it emits rays from that, and anything that kind of impedes that has sort of an alpha layer, when I say alpha, kind of a transparent layer between there, the light will seep through. We thought it'd be a cool idea to incorporate these silhouettes in here to tell the story as well. Doing it silhouettes and telling a story here helps, bring down the, production cost and value, and you can tell it in a very simple way. It's a cool effect that coincides with the light rays. Unfortunately, it's really kind of ruined in my mind with the terrible audio. We didn't really have any professional audio equipment back then. We just used a simple microphone attached to the camera, and I think this was filmed in the bathroom. Don't record audio in a bathroom. That's a big mistake. Just don't do that. Okay, so this is another shot that kind of stood out in my mind that I remembered making originally when we first shot this. This was done, normally we would do this with kind of a green screen effect with the pop-out green screen. I don't remember if we had the pop-out green screen at this point, but this was done with rotoscoping for Joe here, and honestly it was a pretty decent rotoscope for the time. A little bit of a kind of getting rid of his chin over here, but and it's a little blobby around the edges. Normally what I would do now is if I was rotoscoping something like this, I would make it a little bit more feathered and a little bit more smooth. I would have the light leaking onto his shoulders. You know, overall, you know, good effect at the time, and it works because, you know, the way the color is and the way it's working, I get the idea and the impression that he actually is in this new location here. As long as it looks right and, you know, it works. Okay, so this cool Midna effect here from the kind of the Twilight Princess era. This is done with a variety of different effects here. This is done with like a particular layer or particle world layer of these black floating squares here, kind of referencing the Twilight Princess kind of effects, the way it came in. And it's just looks like it's just really just a simple mask that's animating up and revealing her. Obviously, we took a blank plate here where we didn't see her in the shot, and then we kept it on a tripod, and then for the second shot we put her here and then did, you know, this sort of masking effect up, and it kind of coincides with the animation of the particle layers here, giving the impression that the particle layers are building her in. You know, nowadays we probably would do something a little bit more complex than that, like kind of what we did for the Infinity War series. Dust effects, we kind of just do the opposite of that, where the blocky particle layers are actually individually building the layer here. But you know, it's simple enough and it works, and the purple glow really kind of adds to the whole effect there and kind of brings it all together. But doing that little kind of push in post is something that helps, you know, sell the movement a little bit more. If you can add a little bit movement into your VFX shot, it always sells it a little bit more. Okay, so you probably have noticed a big problem with this scene, and this is something we got a lot of feedback for. Big mistake that I made throughout the scene, and you know, this is just because of a lack of experience of doing fight scenes and stuff like that. There are a severe lack of sound effects and sound design in here. It's a very, very stiff fight scene. It's a very stiff fight scene. It's a very quiet fight scene, and that's a big mistake. And a lot of people were saying that this is kind of the point where it brought them out of the film a little bit, because it just didn't look realistic. And if you're gonna make a fight scene with this, especially with a lot of weapons, you gotta make sure you're doing a lot of sound effects. When you're doing fight scenes, you want to even up the ante with the sound effects so much more. You want to bring a lot of depth, and you want to bring a lot of life to that scene, even if it's sounds that you don't necessarily think you would hear in a realistic fight scene. If you're seeing it in real life, you know, you want to bring that energy, and this just, because they don't have the sound effects, it just doesn't have the energy. This is a cool series of effects here. It's kind of has to do with the beginning here. It's really cool kind of color palette, and kind of the same effect with the light rays and whatnot. And that kind of shows you it's good to keep kind of a consistent theme when you're doing sort of these types of effects. The effects in the beginning, if you watch the movie, you see he wakes up from a dream, and that's all kind of in his head. It shows kind of a motif of things happening in his head and visions that he's having in his head. And they start out as silhouettes, and they become clearer and clearer as the movie progresses.
All right, you got a plan?
I think so.
Oh man, this is a big problem in this movie. It's, you know, when you guys are making a project, if you guys are making a project like this and you're gonna make it, you know, very cinematic and serious and stuff, you gotta get good sound. You have to get good sound, because sound, if your sound is bad, and even if your visuals are really good, if your sound is bad like this, it's just gonna ruin a lot of scenes. So clearly I had a thing for purple shockwaves when I was making this movie, because there's a lot of purple shockwave effects done in multiple different forms. The problem with them is they look cool, but the thing is they just look too preset-y to me. There's not much done to them. They're kind of just put in there. You could add a lot of motion blur, you could add more glow effects, you can try to add more distorting effects so it kind of creates more of an amorphous feel to it. But the problem with this, it looks just too sharp and too pasted in here. It doesn't look blended into the scene. Overall, good concept, I'd say. This scene didn't quite turn out, the way I wanted it to. I think the glow here of the purple fractal layers is a little bit too bright, and this is just kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit lazy here. It's just kind of a fractal layer on top of her and tracked in. I think I had a certain vision in my mind, and I knew that I wasn't able to get to that vision, so I kind of took shortcuts to make it look somewhat like that vision. That's a cool shot right here. Probably one of my favorite shots of the movie right here. The kind of masking animation there isn't great, but it's a good color scheme. I really like the color scheme. I like the kind of blurring, glowing effects and the rising, black particles, and the fact that we got this cool shot of the sword in the foreground here. It's really creative, and when you have the chance to do kind of creative shots like this, always do so. You can add this kind of stuff to your VFX shots. That goes a long way.
Sean!
So this is a pretty cool scene here. Probably another one of my favorites that we shot here. It looks really good, actually. Really good green screen work, and it's interesting because I remember specifically shooting this green screen scene. We shot it with the new Blackmagic camera that just came out, and we didn't shoot the rest of the movie with that. We just shot this scene with that because I really wanted to use it, and we shot it in a place where we had like very little to no lighting on the green screen, and we did it with kind of the long cloth green screen that has like wrinkles and stuff like that. So I'm actually really impressed of how well the green screen keyed out for these. For some of the shots, it doesn't key as well, especially with a lot of movement. But for the ones that they're kind of standing still, it keyed out really well, and the detail that they have in the Blackmagic and the log format that it shoots in really worked well for this scene. This originally was just going to be a white void. When I originally made it just the white void, it just didn't seem to have a lot of depth and it wasn't as visually appealing to it. So I think adding the clouds here, kind of making sort of a liquidy type of feel. This is kind of based off the end of Skyward Sword when you're fighting Demise, and especially like the reflections here kind of seal everything, like seal the deal here.
You're stronger than I thought.
Again, huge problem. Oh no. Oh my gosh. The audio is terrible. I think we even shot this one directly to, we didn't even use any type of microphone. We shot it directly to the Blackmagic camera, which its audio is the worst. Like I guess for example here, the way the green screen wasn't working, you can see the sword here. This is where this green screen was reflecting on the sword. What you would do now is you would go and you would mask out this part here, and then mute all the green. All right, so this is the last shot I'm going to go over today. This is the shot where Joe kind of flies through the air and stabs the other Joe while he's on the ground. This was done with, honestly, I'm pretty impressed about the way this was done, considering the way that we shot it was not at all conducive to the way it was going to look. Honestly, like I think he was just in front of the green screen and he did this standing motion and did like a stab, and it looked really awkward. But honestly, it's kind of funny that it actually turned out really well here in the end. Here, this was done with, obviously it's done with an animation of him flying across the screen, but it's also done with the puppet tool. He was very still when he was doing this, so if you go in, you kind of create a puppet tool layer here, and you're able to kind of move. With the puppet tool, you're able to move his limbs a little bit more, making a little bit more exaggeration to his movements and stuff while he's flying across the screen. And if you kind of time that all up well, it makes it look more realistic when he's flying. Puppet tool is good for a lot of still photos that you're cropping out and animating to move and stuff. And honestly, I think one of my favorite parts of the shot is just the reflection here on the bottom. The reflection just really looks good in the atmosphere that they're in. It just all blends together well. The colors look really good, and yeah, I think pretty happy with that one. Yeah, so overall, looking back at this, I actually realized, you know, there are some effects in here that I actually were happier with than I thought I was going to be. The biggest problem I had with this film was I just remember when shooting it, it was such a long movie and such a long process, and such a long process that we wanted to get done in such a short amount of time. When you're making a video series or making a movie this length, you really need to give yourself more time. This took a lot of different shoots and a lot of different moving pieces to it, and there's a lot to deal with in a short amount of time. By the end of the filming process, we were basically just worried about getting the film done rather than getting it done well, in a sense. So there's a lot of creative effects, and there's a lot of creative cinematography in it. Whether or not those effects these days would be deemed as, you know, good or as good as the effects that we do now, they're creative and they're well thought out, and they have like themes to it. And you know, and the story is interesting as well. Even though it's a little slow at times, the story is interesting. This honestly could have been about half the length, or maybe even 3/4 of the length, to be honest. If you guys like this video, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. I post videos every Thursdays and Sundays when I can. This month we're doing a Zelda themed month. If you have any more questions about what the effects or the productions that we did on this video, or any of the videos that we did in the past, go ahead and comment those down below. I'd love to start a conversation with some of them if you guys like. And yeah, be sure to look out for the next video. Bye everyone.